talked about the characteristics and needs of living things, that all organisms, all species, must have the capability of reproduction in order to keep the species alive. So the reproductive system is for the production of new organisms, to create new living things. And humans reproduce sexually like other mammals. And so that requires the combining of cells from the male and the female. And the reproductive system is adapted to allow that to happen. So we're going to start off here. There's some overlap in both male and female reproductive system. Because we already talked about the testes. In what body system did we talk about? Christian? No? We talked about it already, the nervous system. Jared? Jared? Endocrine system. There is some overlap between reproductive system and endocrine system because the testes produce what hormone? And testosterone. So the testes produce testosterone, a hormone. So that is an endocrine function. But they also produce sperm cells, and that's a reproductive function. Okay? Sperm cells are the male reproductive cell. They carry half of the chromosomes from the father that are going to make the embryo. So before, as we talk about testosterone, it is a hormone that's responsible for secondary male sex characteristics, which include what sort of things? Raise your hand, please. What's a secondary male sex characteristic? A deeper voice. Christian? Muscle mass. What else?
Growing of the larynx.
Okay, yeah, that goes along with what? Deeper voice. Body hair, facial hair. Yeah. All those are secondary sex characteristics that are the result of increased levels of testosterone. Another one that you may be familiar with from health tests, when you guys, if you talked about steroids, which are often testosterone-like compounds that have similar effects to increase muscle mass. But testosterone also increases aggressiveness. And so if you hear about people that have been on steroids, they may get angry very quickly. They sometimes call it roid rage, where they fly off the handle. Because testosterone does have an impact on brain functioning, on mood, on things like that. But these are basically endocrine functions, all of these various things. We're going to be talking mostly about the reproductive functions. So there are male and female sex cells in any organism that reproduces sexually. In humans and other animals, the male sex cell is a sperm cell, female sex cell is an egg cell. And a sperm cell, this is what one individual sperm cell looks like. The sperm cell has the head, which contains the chromosomes, half of the father's chromosomes. Then there's a little enlarged area, that's sort of like a motor for the tail. And what would you call the tail?
A flagellum.
Yeah, a flagellum, yes, a flagellum. The sperm swim their way to the egg. That's how they arrive at the egg. And sperm cells, like we said, are produced in the testes. Although unlike females, the ovaries are inside of the body. In males, testes are not. Males' testes are outside of the body in the scrotum. A scrotum is a pouch of skin that holds the testes. And there's a reason for this. You guys learned the reason? Some people knew it in the last class. Joe?
Because inside the body it's a lot hotter and all the sperm will die.
Yeah. 98.6 is too high of a temperature for the sperm to be produced effectively. They need to be at 3 to 5 degrees cooler than human body temperature. And so they're outside in the scrotum to make them a little bit cooler than body temperature, about 3 to 5 degrees. And that's the best temperature for sperm production. like we just talked about, these sperm cells, they have a long journey to make. They need to make their way to the egg cell. They get there by swimming, but they need a fluid to swim in. And that fluid that they swim in is called semen. It also, they need a lot of energy to do this, so the semen contains nutrients as well to provide these sperm cells with the energy they need to make their way to the egg. Okay, so we'll talk in a minute about where those various components are produced, but that's what semen is, a mixture of sperm cells along with other fluids and nutrients. All right. So here we have a microscope picture. These are actually microscopic pictures. These are sperm cells. You can see the sort of white area, that's the head of the sperm. Just behind it, there's a little sort of darker enlarged area. That's kind of like the motor. And then the flagellum or the tail of the sperm. Now, again, we have some overlap here because these are organs that we talked about with which body system? Which one? No? Ureter, urinary bladder, urethra. This is part of the excretory system. Again, they're in the same vicinity, so there is a little bit of overlap. The ureter, however, is just an excretory organ. Who could remind me? Let's review. What does the ureter in the excretory system do? Christian?
It holds.
Not so much holds. Joe?
It connects to the bladder, and then it connects to the urethra.
Yeah, it brings the urine from the kidneys to the urinary bladder, which holds the urine, stores it. So the ureter, the urinary bladder. And here's where we have some overlap with the reproductive system. Because as we talked about, the urethra carries the urine out of the body, but it also carries semen out of the body as well. So the urethra carries both urine and semen out of the body. So you can see here, well, we'll get there in the next.
Yeah, please.
All right, so let's get to just the reproductive.
I didn't write that.
But you're right, there's semen and urine
No, that's
out of the
not.
body.
We don't even know what they're on.
It's still
You have to
here.
go back.
Ureter,
No, that's
urinary
not what
bladder,
I mean. It's the other thing.
urethra.
Yeah, you're. And yeah, all that.
All right, got it?
Wait.
All right, so testes. Again, we said testes, there are two of them held in the scrotum. And the testes, as we said, make sperm and they make testosterone. Scrotum holds the testes so that they're a little bit cooler than body temperature.
Yeah, you can speed up.
Oh my gosh.
And then if you look here, you have one testis where the sperm are made, but then you have this long tube. So the sperm travel up through this long tube out of the scrotum into the body. It loops around up here near the bladder, and then right here it merges with the urethra. This tube is called the vas deferens, and it carries sperm up to the urethra. Now, does anybody know the name of a surgical procedure that a man can have if they don't want to have children anymore permanently? Joe?
The vasectomy.
Vasectomy. It comes from this tube. The name of this tube, the vas deferens. A vasectomy is when the doctor cuts the vas deferens and ties off both ends, seals them basically. And so therefore, testes, when they produce sperm, those sperm can't get out of the man's body. They can't go past that gap, and so the man does not release any sperm cells, okay, when they have intercourse, and therefore they can't make a woman pregnant anymore. They still release the other parts of the semen, but there are no sperm cells in there, so they can't make a woman pregnant. Now this is almost 100% effective, but there are some times when the two cut ends of the vas deferens grow back together, and then a man can make a woman pregnant if that has happened. But that usually doesn't happen. Christian? Yeah, we can. Almost the exact same procedure can be done on a woman, and we'll talk about that later. All right. The seminal vesicle is up here, and the prostate gland is also up here. Both of those glands add to the sperm cells to make semen. So again, that's why if a man has a vasectomy, sperm cells can't get out, but there's still the seminal vesicle and prostate gland, which make the semen. You probably have heard of the prostate gland because prostate cancer is one of the most common forms of cancer that affects especially older men. My grandfather had prostate cancer, my father had prostate cancer. It's quite common, especially in older men. And then finally, after the vas deferens and the urethra merge to carry semen out of the man's body is the penis.
Okay.
Okay? Yes, you can say that word.
I really don't.
That is the only term we will use for anatomy, as well as testes and so
I've never
forth.
heard such follow.
So, the penis delivers semen into the female